So we're getting ready to work on our first scale in the key of G, which is going to be the A Dorian scale. Now that's actually the second scale in the key. We're not going to be learning the key in the order that they appear within the key, 1 through 7. There's a reason for that. You want to get experience in each of the 3 categories of major, minor, and dominant sooner rather than later. So what we're going to do is start with Dorian because it's a very common minor scale. Once you're through with that, we're going to go to Ionian because it's a very common major scale. After that, we're going to do Mixolydian, a common dominant scale. That way you'll have experience in 3 categories, and then everything we do beyond that is just adding to the categories that you already know how to play in. So the first thing is, before you play any scale, you already know where all the notes are for the A Dorian scale up and down the neck, but we need to find the root notes, the A notes, in a system to make it easy to find them. And you're going to use these for all scales and lots of other things later on, but for now we're going to call these the root positions for A, or the A notes within the positions up the neck. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate these. Now within this first fingering that we learned previously, there are 3 A's. So what I'm going to call the first position for the roots are also within the first position of the notes that we learned for the key. So there's an A here, 5th fret 6th string, there's another one over here, 2nd fret 3rd string, and another here on the 5th fret of the 1st string. So I want you to grab all those at the same time like I'm doing, and then pick only the A notes. So that's what I'm calling the first position. After that, the next position for the A's will come out of the next position of the notes in the key, the next fingering that we use to play the notes in the key. So you have 3 A's here. Now these will overlap in the same way that the modal positions overlap. So I'm going to bar the first string so that I can play this A and this A on the first string, and then there's also one on the 7th fret of the 4th string. So I have these, trying to get my fingers out of the way here. So 5th fret 6th string, 7th fret 4th string, 5th fret 1st string. All right, so I'm going to go back and do both of these again. This comes out of the first fingering of the key. I'm calling that the first root position for A. We move up to the next position. And we have those 3 A's. And we're going to keep moving up into each next position, which will give us our next position for the A notes. So if I watch the highest finger that I'm playing on the highest fret, that one will always be, as we go through these, the lowest one in the next one coming up. So keeping an eye on this, and I move up, I'm going to have this A and this A. And this other A is on the 10th fret of the 2nd string. All right, so now I have this. Whoops, sorry, I have this. Alright, keeping my eye on this one, I have this one, and I'm going to add this one over here, which is on the 12th fret of the 5th string. Okay, the last one is going to use this one, plus, with my 3rd finger, I'm playing on the 14th fret of the 3rd string. After that, they repeat, so I would be back to this again, which is the same as the one down here. So I'm going to play those one more time through, and then you should stop the video and play through these up and down until there are no mistakes, and then you can come back to the next section of the video. Okay, so really what I want you to do is go up to the repeat. So start the repeat, and then start coming backwards on them. Okay, you don't have to be any faster than what I'm doing right now, but you have to be, again, comfortable and confident finding them. We could go down to the next one here, which will use the open string. That's the same as this one way up here. We're just not going to mess with that one right now, though. Okay, so learn those 5 positions up and down, and then come back. So working with the A Dorian scale, there's going to be several steps that I have you go through before you actually play this scale for real. There's there are several things that need to be learned for you to be effective at playing any scale. And we're going to do it all with this first scale so that you understand the process. And the first step is going to be that I want you to memorize the intervals that make up the scale we're now working with and the chord that goes along with it. So you should already know that that chord for this A Dorian scale is A minor 7. Doesn't matter how you play it. And you can play a triad, that's fine. I'm just going to use A minor 7. So that should be memorized. The intervals for this scale, 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. Okay, that should just be, those should be intervals just in your head. Have it memorized. So now, with the A roots that you just learned earlier in this video, we're now going to play through each modal position and rest on the A notes. What that is going to do is make these notes sound specifically like the A Dorian scale as opposed to any of the other scales, because remember, the other scales, whether it's B Phrygian or C Lydian, are made up of exactly the same notes. The biggest differentiation between the scales is the note they start on. So before we put a chord with this in the background, I want you to be able to play through a series of notes and have the scale sound like the scale by understanding that you simply stop on the roots. So what I'm going to have you do as you play through each one of these is rest on each A note and then hit it again and continue up and do the same thing coming backwards. Now this first position starts on an F sharp note. That's where you're going to start. So your A's aren't until you get to here, here, and here. But the position, and you're always going to start at the first note of the position starts on F sharp, so that's where you're going to start. So it's going to go like this. I'm stopping on the A, I'm going to hit it again and continue up until I get to the next A. Now as soon as I do this and start stopping on the A's, this automatically adjusts your ears so that you're hearing the A Dorian scale and not any other scale. And backwards. I have some more notes down here. What I'm going to do is go down and back up so that I end on a root. It just helps my ears really solidify that A root as being the root. All right? So I'm going to do it again. That's the first position. Now I'm going to go up into the next position and do the same thing. The A notes are here. I have some notes hanging over. So come right back down to that A. So again, remember, you never hit a note twice or rest on it unless it's an A note. All right, up to the next position. My A notes are in the middle of the position. All right, so I got a lot of notes to play before I even get to the root. So this should all sound pretty much identical, except I'm going into slightly higher octaves here. Okay, the next position. My A's are here. Okay, last position, my A's are here. Alright, so those are the 5 positions. You would want to stop the video again and just get that together. It might take you 5 minutes, it might take you a day, it might take you half a week, I don't know. Everybody's a little bit different, so don't worry about how long it takes you to get that together. Once again, do it until you're not making any mistakes. Because as we add things to what we're doing, the complexity gets a little more advanced. And if there are mistakes at this stage of the game before you move to the next step, there's going to be even more mistakes in the next step. All right, so it's important to be comfortable before you move on. Okay, the next thing you can do is listen with the chord. So obviously you need some kind of recording equipment. It doesn't matter if it's a looper pedal, something on your computer that plays an A minor chord. Make sure that there is an A in the root of the chord when you play it. Like, don't, play some A minor chord that has the flat third in the bottom or something, or the flatted 7 in the bottom. Keep the root on the bottom. There's a reason for that. Okay, so you put the chord on, you play it. It should also be at a reasonably slow and uncomplicated rhythmic background when you do this. All right, the simpler the rhythmic background, the easier it is to play along with. All right, and that's all you're going to do. You play the chord. This is on your recording, and then you just mess around on the notes. And I want you resting on the A's a lot. You don't have to be thinking any specific thoughts other than you're going to run around on the notes. You do that in each position on all of the A's to reinforce where those A notes are. Okay, all 5 positions doing that while you listen to that A minor 7 recording. Again, you don't have to be able to play fast, but get that comfortable so that you're not making mistakes as you mess around a little bit in these positions. Do each position one at a time. Don't try to be moving up and down the neck. Do this position, get it straight. Do the next position, get it straight, etc. Okay? Let me try and squeeze this in this video. So you should stop at this point, get that together. The next thing you can do, or the next thing we're going to talk about, is scale patterns. Right? Guitar is a very pattern-oriented instrument. You hear about scale patterns all the time. Before we get into a discussion on scale patterns, you have to understand how your guitar is tuned. If you don't, scale patterns can seem confusing. So what we're going to talk about is the fact that your guitar is basically tuned in fourths, but not really. There's an exception. There's a diagram in the book that I'll show you quickly. And what that's showing you is the open strings and then some notes up on the, starting on the 2nd fret, if we go left to right. So from the opened E string, the 6th string, moving to the 5th string A, it's an interval of a fourth. From the A to the D is a fourth. From the D to the G is a fourth. From the G to the B is not a fourth. It's a third. If you want to play on the next string and keep the pattern the same, now our pattern is fourths, right? So if you want to make it a fourth, the difference between a third, which was what that B is, to a fourth is up a half step. So you would go from the open 3rd string up to the 1st fret to play that C note in order to make that a fourth to the next string. Once you're up on that 1st fret of that string and you want to go over to the 1st string to play a fourth, you stay up on that fret. It doesn't move back down. You're up the 4th. You've compensated for that difference on the 2nd string. It also carries over to the 1st string. Okay? If you look up on the 2nd fret, it's showing you that no matter where you are in the neck of the guitar, that's what the pattern is if you want to play all fourths across the neck. Right? So you can start on the 2nd fret, you go to the 2nd fret on the 5th string, you go to the 2nd fret on the 4th string, you go to the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, but if you want to move to the 2nd string and play a fourth, you have to go up a fret. And then the same thing, it carries over onto the 1st string. So that's a pattern that you need to be familiar with. All right, I'm going to briefly play that. If I start here and I want to go a fourth, I go here. Another fourth, here. Another fourth, here. If I want to go a fourth to the next string, it's up here, and then it stays there. Okay, so that's just something that you need to be familiar with, and then next video we're going to start talking about scale patterns specifically for the A Dorian scale. All right?